July 2024. Keir Starmer sweeps to power with a crushing Labour majority.
But now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal and a return of politics to public service.
The Prime Minister had promised a return to grown-up politics after the chaos of the Brexit years and COVID. He promised to curb illegal immigration.
The number of people crossing the Channel now is shocking. It's record numbers, as you rightly say. And this was Rishi Sunak's pledge to the country 18 months ago that he'd stop the boats, and the numbers have gone up. The way to bring this down, it has to be dealt with, this is a very serious issue, is what we would do, which was to set up a border security command to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
Fix the NHS.
If I am, elected in to serve as Prime Minister, my job is to bring those waiting lists down. The NHS may be in a critical condition, but its vital signs are strong. And we need to have the courage to deliver long-term reform. Major surgery, not sticking plasters.
And grow the economy.
Our focus is on growth. That's been the missing ingredient for the last 14 years. It's been slightly the missing ingredient in this campaign as well, because we're not talking enough about how we grow the economy and create wealth.
Making a pledge not to increase tax.
We have been very clear that for working people, we are not going to increase their taxes. So that means we are not increasing income tax, national insurance or VAT. And that is because I think the burden on working people is too high. The tax burden under this government is at a 70-year high. And that is why our plans are fully costed, fully funded. They do not involve tax rises over and above the ones that we've set out in relation to non-dom status, private equity, loopholes, VAT on private schools, and of course a windfall tax on oil and gas companies. So they're the rises we will put in place. But we have not announced today anything over and above what we've pre-announced. So none of the plans today in our manifesto for growth, for wealth creation, require us to raise other taxes.
The same day, Nigel Farage, on his 8th time of trying, was finally elected to Westminster, with his band of Reform UK MPs vowing to be a thorn in the side of the new government.
I therefore do hereby declare that Nigel Paul Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency.
What is interesting is there's no enthusiasm for Labour, there's no enthusiasm for Starmer whatsoever. In fact, about half of the vote is simply an anti-Conservative vote. This Labour government will be in trouble very, very quickly. We will now be targeting Labour votes. We're coming for Labour, be in no doubt about that.
Where Labour was seen as weak on crime and on immigration, Reform was seen as strong. Starmer's honeymoon didn't last long, and just weeks into his premiership, he suspended 7 MPs for rebelling against his decision to keep the 2-child benefit cap. The Prime Minister's first real test was when riots erupted after the killing of 3 little girls at a Southport dance party.
A 17-year-old male from Banks in Lancashire, who is originally from Cardiff, has been arrested on suspicion of murder and attempted murder, and is being taken to a police station where he will be interviewed by detectives. We believe that the adults who were injured were bravely trying to protect the children who were being attacked.
Starmer was seen as too slow to react to the rioters, and at the same time as being overly harsh on those who were concerned about the impact of immigration.
I won't shy away from calling it what it is, far-right thuggery. I want you to know that this violent mob do not represent our country, and we will bring them to justice.
Nigel Farage questioned whether the state was being honest with the people and whether Starmer's approach to the attack had hastened the public's anger.
I posted a video in which I asked the question, was this man known to the authorities? Why are you not telling us the truth? And for that, I was vilified. From senior newspaper publications, broadcasters, politicians, just for asking for the truth.
I was apparently somebody who was encouraging rioting. The opposite was the case.
Weeks later, the PM was engulfed in a row over freebies he'd accepted, totalling more than £100,000, which included clothes from Labour peer Lord Ali and £4,000 Taylor Swift concert tickets. Some in the media donned the PM Free Gear Keir, a play on the nickname Two-Tier Keir he had been given by some who felt the law was being applied differently to select groups in society on his watch. But the real trouble came when Labour announced they'd scrapped the winter fuel allowance for most pensioners.
Those not in receipt of pension credit or certain other means-tested benefits will no longer receive the winter fuel payment from this year onwards. Let me be clear, this is not a decision.
This caused outrage.
The decisions I made on winter fuel payment yesterday are not decisions I wanted to make. They were not decisions that I expected to make. But when confronted with a £22 billion black hole, I had to act.
But the budget increased borrowing as well as £40 billion in taxes, hiking national insurance, which some thought broke their promise not to tax working people, in order for a spending splurge.
I can announce that I am providing a £22.6 billion increase in the day-to-day health budget and a £3.1 billion increase in the capital budget over this year and next. This is the largest real terms growth in day-to-day NHS spending outside of COVID since 2010.
The public was split on whether or not they supported it. Given Labour's promises during the election, the media pushed Keir Starmer on whether he'd raise taxes again.
Let me give this reassurance, because we had to stabilise the economy and deal with a £22 billion black hole this time around, and that required us to make tough and difficult decisions in relation to both tax and spend. But when the Chancellor says we're not going to go through that sort of budget again, she's right about that, and that's why I can say and give reassurance in relation to tax that I know that individuals, families and businesses want the certainty of knowing that the tax regime is not going to change very much.
But by January, he was ducking the same question.
Will he now rule out any new tax rises this year?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we took the right and difficult decisions at the budget.
And by then, reform had overtaken Labour in the polls as discontent with the government took hold. But Nigel Farage remained hot on his tail over his failure to smash the gangs and stop the boats of illegal migrants arriving in Britain.
We've just gone through 10,000 people, nearly all young men that have crossed the English Channel. Smash the gangs is not working. Stop the boats before that didn't work either. And I think just at the weekend, Serco publishing all those towns where they want to take out 5-year leases on private rental property, and you begin to realise the scale of this. I mean, if this carries on at this rate, by the end of this Labour government, another 250,000 people will have come into this country, many of whom, frankly, don't fit our culture and will cost us a fortune. We are the only party, and by the way, I've been warning about this for 5 years. I was talking about this before anybody else. We're the only party that says unless you deport those that come illegally, they will continue to come, and we don't believe you can do that if you stay part of the ECHR.
The next couple of months saw Keir Starmer draw Britain closer to the EU, sign a deal to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, and sign trade deals with the US and India. While contentious, the Prime Minister seemed to be growing into the job, until events meant the nation's finances were brought back into focus.
This is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit.
Escalating global tensions and Donald Trump's return to the White House meant Britain had to increase its spending on defence, and Rachel Reeves' fiscal rules meant market changes could quickly evaporate her headroom. The DWP was ordered to find £5 billion of savings from welfare. The sharp rise in disability benefit claims since COVID meant personal independent payment was to be curtailed. But a rebellion forced the Prime Minister's hand, who eventually gutted his bill under pressure from backbench MPs. Scenes from Parliament rattled the markets. The Chancellor was seen in the Commons in tears. Keir Starmer then refused to back his Chancellor as she cried behind him. With rivals circling and the widespread perception the Prime Minister had lost control of his party, on the eve of his first year in office, the most popular political bet in Britain is now that the PM will not see out 2025. As Reform rides high in the polls, Nigel Farage could be set to capitalise on such an outcome. Nicholas Dunning, GB News.